Hello everybody, this is Gareth Cahoon Speaks back here with another video. I'd like you to hit the subscribe bar, give me a thumbs up if you like the video, or hit the notification bell to be notified when I post my next post. Or otherwise you can donate to my ministry and the charities that I support at garethcahoon3@gmail.com on PayPal. Trump needs to rip off the band-aid. We all know that ripping off the band-aid after it's had a good amount of time to adhere itself to the skin can be a painful ordeal. Pain receptors are activated in the nerves, and if the wound still exists, more irritation can occur. But there are always ways to minimize the pain, and that's important to know, because in the end that band-aid must be removed if the healing process is ever to take place. Delaying the process will only make it harder, causing the pain to be greater. Such is the case with Iran. Far too long a festering wound has been allowed to go on without proper treatment. The clear conditions drawn up by President Donald J. Trump has been unmistakable when setting forth the measures Iran must take in order to avoid a US attack. Give up the nuclear ambitions, hand over the existing enriched uranium as well as the remaining dust buried underground, abandon all aspirations to extort money from vessels attempting to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, and recognise it's not Iranian property but an international waterway. There are the non-negotiable terms under which the regime can survive, despite the obvious mistake it would be to allow them to continue their evil rule. But there are no signs indicating that they will agree to do any of the above, and to hear it from retired Israeli Brigadier General Amir Avivi, there is a 99% chance that Iran will not comply, meaning that the band-aid will have to be ripped off. It's interesting to note who is trying to avoid that painful moment that exposes the wound. They are none other than the leaders of the neighbouring Arab countries who stand absorb the fallout of an American-Iranian attack. Those countries include Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman and Egypt, all hoping for a diplomatic solution rather than a significant escalation. That is because they are all being economically impacted by the blockade. As everyone else, of course, they are also justifiably fearful of Iranian rocket attacks they suffered prior to the temporary ceasefire which began on April 8, 2026, brokered by Pakistan. It's no wonder that they are anxious to keep the band-aid on in an attempt to avoid what could amount to infliction of more pain. And while their presence is for this battle to be fought as a at the negotiating table, the reality of Iran's obstinance not to capitulate is making it clear that the ensuing pain cannot be avoided. In an attempt to satisfy their demand, Trump has conditioned a diplomatic deal on the basis that all of these Arab countries join the Abraham Accords, but what sounds like a real feather in Trump's cap could also result in the preservation of a rogue regime whose highest goal is world domination. This means that will be no liberation for the people of Iran, who have gravely suffered intolerable bondage over the last 47 years at the hands of a cruel and tyrannical rulers. Not only that, once an agreement is signed, these ayatollahs and mullahs will be able to continue their thriving business of proxy fighting, replenishing eliminated terrorists with new generation of well-trained ones. Frozen assets will be released provided the funds to pay Hezbollah, the Houthis and Hamas, just as former naive and hopeful American administrations did. So what will have changed? Trump wisely shut the spigot, causing Iran's financial resources to dry up. That meant that terrorists were forced to murder for free since they stopped getting paid. But what many of them discovered was that it wasn't as much fun to go without sleep in the middle of the night while terrorizing Israeli citizens at all hours without the monthly paychecks that made it worthwhile for them. Iran has found itself in a position of having to do its own dirty work. Sinking deeper into desperation, the Islamic regime will undoubtedly place more and more pressure on the Arab countries not to enter into the Abraham Accords, because once such a pact is made, it will forge a new reality for America, Israel, and all the Arab countries against Iran. As tempting as that may be, would it be worth resuscitating a despotic regime fixated on world domination through the constant threat of unleashing nuclear weapons? This is why Trump had no choice but to rip off the band-aid. If this festering wound is ever to be properly treated and ultimately healed, yes, it will hurt in the beginning. The pain and discomfort will not be easy, but with each passing day, the necessary blows to an indomitable foe will chip away at their resolve to continue a fight that cannot be won by them. As more and more of their numbers are depleted, they will get the painful message that their glory days have come to an end. With no characteristic spiritual leader to help them to hold them together and inspire their visions of sure victory, they will eventually come to a place of despair, hit with the hard truth that they are no match for the formidable armies which are unafraid to take them on. That is where the US and Israel come in. Together they have the military might, superior intelligence, unmatched will, and determination to rid the world of the IRGC once and for all. If the Arab countries which are intimidated by them could muster enough courage and fortitude, their assistance in the necessary fight would only serve to hasten the victory. This is the needed resolve that must be shown by every country who treasures freedom and values mutual respect, trust, goodwill, and the unity that's fostered when people fight together for what really matters. Allowing fear, threat, and intimidation to prevent the first blow will only result in strengthening a country already doing its best to bully humanity to give up the fight. The survival of this regime must come to a complete and decisive end so that their goals can never be realized. It's time for the world superpower to gird up its loins and take that bold step of pulling off the band-aid. The winces of pain will be worth it. That will be worth the peace, which will come after a sure defeat. Only then can the healing process begin for the beleaguered Iranian people, as well as for the rest of the world. Trump, rip off that band-aid and attack Iran and free her people. Shalom, Maranatha, and Hallelujah.